Okay, right, we're going to get started. Thank you everyone for dialing in, for joining us today. It's really excited to introduce Lindsay, which I'll get to in a minute. But for those that don't know me, have never met me before, my name's Sharon Robinson. I'm the head of marketing here at Wetu. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. So the chat channel is turned off for the duration of this call. Just that we find that people accidentally put their questions into the chat um, window, and so sometimes their questions are missed. But do feel free to use the Q&A kind of bubble above to send your questions, and we'll try and get to those at the end of the session. And with that, I'm just going to give Lindsay an intro. So for those of you that don't know her, and she is pretty famous in this industry.
Not.
An individual. But for those that don't know much about Lindsay, she's the co-founder of Torch and has helped shape some of Africa's most inspiring luxury travel and hospitality brands. Her work spans the continent, from boutique lodges to leading operators, with projects extending to Europe and US. With a background in sales and marketing, Lindsay is passionate about elevating African brands through strategy, creativity, and connection, and believes in the power of collaboration and innovation, which is what we're here to talk about today. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Lindsay to take us through it.
Thanks, Sharon. Thank you, everyone. I'm glad you could join us today. Just want to let you know that this presentation will be recorded and we will share it for those of you who really want to have all my babble in your inboxes, but you will get it, so don't worry about it. Okay, so today we're talking about the power of ours and how collaboration builds stronger travel brands. And I think the question is why? Why ours? I believe that it shouldn't be mine or yours, it should be ours. I believe that the travel trade thrives when success stops being an individual pursuit and it starts becoming a collective intention. Ours, for me, is what happens when knowledge stops being guarded, when opportunity stops being competitive, and when we shift from an individual survival to a collective strength. And that mindset has really shaped my entire career. Why collaboration really, matters to me. I don't know, some of you might know my background, but it's deeply relevant to why I believe in this message of collaboration. I didn't start out in tourism. I was the holiday goer, not the holiday planner. Life took some sharp turns and I moved to New York. And then a heartbreak followed and a return home with no ring and no plan. And I was very down and out with no confidence. So I started from scratch in a totally new industry that felt incredibly overwhelming. But something incredible happened. People really helped me. They taught me, they invited me. I had coffee after coffee, meeting after meeting, and I found industry players who were willing to share, who were willingly sharing and generously sharing without expecting anything in return. So collaboration for me didn't just help my career, it absolutely rebuilt my life. And it shaped who I became in the industry today. It taught me that the greatest opportunities in travel come from people that we stand next to, not the ones we stand ahead of. And today, I feel collaboration in this industry is incredibly important, more than ever. Sub-Saharan Africa only receives 3% of global travelers, and that is very little out of the 1.4 billion annual tourists that there are. If you think Italy receives 5%, our beautiful continent, Sub-Saharan Africa, that's everything below Kenya, receives 3% of global travelers. So if we can just grow this by 1% or 2%, the impact that we will have on our industry is transformative. We will have more jobs, more resilient communities, more impact funding, more conservation outcomes, and more demand for African product. So for me, we are better together in action, but we are definitely not going to get there by hoarding our information or by going there alone. Travel is by design, an interdependent industry. So no traveler experiences a single brand in isolation. They experience our collective ecosystem. And that's why collaboration isn't just a nice idea. It's honestly a requirement for Africa to grow our share of global tourism. And I love this quote that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So yeah, we have real collaboration happening in this industry. We have some of the best examples right under our nose here in Cape Town, and one of them is the Travel Club, which is a remarkable group of women in Cape Town who started in 2015 already. Every one of them owns their own travel agency, so they're technically competitors of each other, but they operate like a family. And once a month, they get together and they share new properties, they compare trends, they troubleshoot their tricky quotes, or they raise issues with suppliers, or they swap insights from their client base. They allow us as suppliers to do product training for the whole group at once, which saves us a lot of time, and it gives them consistent, aligned information. I personally value these group of women enormously. If I'm approached by a new product, I'll ask them what they think. Would they be able to sell it? Can it work? I'll get them out there, pick their brains. If they have an issue with one of my clients or a client at one of my properties, they'll call me immediately. And I honestly value their stamp of approval and their honesty. They refer clients to each other. They support each other with difficult itineraries or difficult clients. They recommend properties that fit better for a client's need. And they collaborate instead of compete. So every one of them grows. And they're literally living proof of what I call co-petition, which is competing and collaborating. And I think it can coexist beautifully in our industry. Another example is Switzerland, or a supplier network. It's collaboration that's not happening on the agent side, but amongst us suppliers and properties. And we built an incredibly supportive behind the scenes network. We call it Switzerland because it's a safe space and it's neutral and you can ask any questions and you won't be judged. And it's all the sales and marketing managers of these amazing properties across Africa. And we share intel. We share intel on new agents, on commission benchmarks. We align on cancellation policies. We flag payment risks, or we warn each other about difficult operators. We meet often and then we compare trends and we discuss market behavior, low season performance. It's a fabulous little group that we have, and we can very quickly on WhatsApp just say, hey, have you guys heard of this new agent? Or has anyone worked with so-and-so? And yes, like this guy is demanding cancellation policy. What do you guys think? What do you do? It's not gossip, it's governance. It protects us, it protects the trade, and it protects our travelers. And it's amazing to have real and honest, actionable insight from all these people in the industry. It's I believe the quiet, everyday collaboration that keeps this industry running with integrity. And the results for this is absolutely trust, transparency, and shared success. Collaboration doesn't need to have a big budget or a formal agreement or a big government initiative. It just needs people that chooses ours over mine. And when we do, the entire ecosystem becomes stronger. So it's a complete mindset change. You think of, instead of my business, think of Africa. Instead of just hustling on your own, hustle together. It's me versus the community, my shortcomings versus our whole collective potential, reserving information versus sharing knowledge, and distrust versus trust. So what I've done is I've worked on a little bit of a starter kit for everyone, and it's not rocket science. Today, I'm really not sharing anything out of the ordinary. It's just what you can do immediately, how you can start tomorrow. And it's a few simple actions that we can all do. And that's build micro communities, join WhatsApp groups, alliances, niche working groups. It's small networks move fast. So select like-minded people that you know you will be able to work with. Refer intentionally. If a client isn't right for you, redirect them. Don't just take it because you feel you have to. Just give it to someone that you know will better serve them. It builds trust and it keeps the value circulating. And then co-create content. Do joint reels or co-branded posts. Do a joint newsletter. Partner, spotlight a partner or a trade partner. The trade should work with their suppliers and the suppliers should work with their trade. I honestly believe it's something that we should do. Share supplier stories, share guest stories, how people experienced a brand, or talk about brands that make your work possible. It just elevates everyone. And then do things together. I have been traveling with a lot of my now very close friends in the industry over the years where we shared our sales calls. We did training sessions together or supplier events or trade events. Share the costs. It's so much better than doing everything on your own. And then the last one that I'm quite passionate about is share honest data. Don't inflate your occupancy if someone says to you, what are you looking at? Don't lie and say, oh, it's all good here, but meanwhile, everyone is stressing. Give real and vulnerable and useful numbers, because being honest is how we are collectively going to make better decisions in this industry. If you look at your brand ecosystem, ask yourself, who is in your ecosystem? Where could you collaborate to strengthen your brand? Who helps your brand thrive? Where could collaboration strengthen your brand? When your brand becomes stronger, your whole ecosystem becomes stronger. And I honestly believe in the power of ours. If Africa wants to grow from 3% or sub-Saharan Africa from 3% to just 4 or 5%, it's not going to happen with all our individual efforts. It's going to happen through collective behavior. It's going to happen through agents who collaborate instead of compete with each other, suppliers who support instead of isolate, and through an industry who remembers its roots in Ubuntu. I am because we are. The future of travel belongs to those of us who choose ours. And I honestly believe with everything in me that if we work together, we can reshape how the world experiences Africa. Our Africa. So it's everything a little bit in a nutshell. I hope I didn't speak too fast. But yeah, that's me. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Sharon, you're on mute.
Thanks. Sorry. Yeah, that was amazing. Thanks, Lindsay. You whizzed through that in no time.
Was it a bit too fast? I'm sorry.
No, you didn't talk fast, actually. It was really clear. So, maybe while people are just warming up and thinking of their questions, I can jump in with a couple to get us kick-started.
Okay.
So, what advice? I was recently staying with friends of ours that actually have a guest house, and I overheard the wife of these friends saying that they had been to an association of some description, and they had shared some tips and tricks with a peer at this event, and this person had kind of pulled the rug from underneath them, marginalized them, and gone straight to their clients and locked them out of a whole bunch of business. And I would imagine that's not that unusual to see that happening, but it does happen from time to time. So needless to say, her trust is completely broken, and her inclination is not to want to share or collaborate at all. How do you bring those people around? I mean, when you come across people like that.
It is a tough one if your trust has been broken, definitely, because you will then struggle to to trust someone again and to share. But I would honestly, that's why you need to really figure out who's in your ecosystem and who you want to work with, and use those people, to have honest conversations and say, look, guys, we are competitors. This might happen, that might happen. Have honest and open conversations with each other and preempt any difficulties. There are definitely issues in this industry, a lot of them that we still need to overcome. And I think just making sure that you surround yourself with like-minded individuals. Don't go and choose a big brand or, a very expensive agency or whatever. It's just stick to what you know and who you like to surround yourself with. That would be my advice.
Yeah, no, I think the like-mindedness is an important one. It's like yeah, sort of the herd mentality of kind of sticking to your own kind of tribe. I think is, it's probably human nature as well. Um, what did you, so have you actually experienced yourself kind of falling into the trap of operating in a silo at all? And like, have you got an example of what that might look like and how you pulled yourself out of it and how you actually managed to kind of, yeah, ask for help and kind of collaborate more within your teams?
I think it actually happened when I was at Element House for years as a sales and marketing manager. And when I started there, I honestly did not know what a STO rate was. I mean, I was very green. And Element House at that point in the game were also very siloed, and we were kind of seen as this, that house on the hill that no one can actually get to, or it's only for the rich and famous and for the celebrities. And it was a whole mindset change that we had to get used to and that I had to learn. And that's where I really relied on my industry peers. And they, as I said, willingly shared their knowledge with me. And that's how I just started doing things together. We had to literally pull ourselves, out of that realm of being this exclusive hotel and really, being open and honest and sharing our stats and our database and whatever it was with whoever asked us. If you help, I'm a firm believer that it will come back tenfold. And I mean, I've made lifelong friends with Jackie from Londo's and everyone in the Relay family by, we all traveled together. We all did our sales calls together. And it's just so much nicer to do it, together than in a, on your own.
Yeah.
But it's a constant reminder because everyone sees each other as competitors, but you shouldn't. We're all here for this amazing continent, and there's so much work to be done. Yeah.
There are a couple of questions in the chat, so I'll get to them in a second, but I think the thinking a lot behind why we decided to do this topic or, to have you come on was because of this recognition that there are a lot of small, medium, mom and pop shops out there kind of starting their own sort of travel businesses with really limited kind of budgeting and and resource, and they have to be lean and mean by the nature of how they work. So this is a smart way of creating that extended opportunity for them to be able to use their networks appropriately. So what would you say? So you did talk about like understanding your brand really well, understanding potentially, what your strengths are and what you want to keep close to home, versus what you were happy to let go. Maybe can you maybe expand a little bit on that kind of thinking around, how to think
Yeah,
about collaboration?
I think everything is always going to boil down to budget, right?
Yeah.
And you need to look at that budget and you need to work out a strategy every year. What are you going to achieve for your brand this year, and what do you need to achieve? Maybe, you're going to need to do a little bit of PR, you're going to need to do a little bit of, hosting or flying press around or agents or whatever, whichever side of the coin you're sitting on. But budget would always dictate. But something very simple like a coffee with a colleague or a peer, or a competitor, chat, see how they do things. Say, ask them, how can we work together? What do you see out there? Social media doesn't cost a lot. Share content, share reels, do a newsletter, stuff that's really not going to break your bank. And that's why I think it's very important that we start with these small things that we can actually change and use to collaborate, rather than going, oh gosh, I need, X amount of dollars and I need to see an ROI and whatever. Collaboration is also not always going to give you an ROI. Someone else might benefit out of it, but therein lies the challenge, that we are doing this together for the greater good of a continent that needs more than 3% of global travelers. And we're not going to get there just by doing our own individual little sessions or work that we do.
Totally. Yeah. David and Philip both seem to have kind of touched on the same thing. They're basically asking whether how they can join the groups that you've mentioned on the call today. So is there an invitation required? Do they need to be part of a club? How do they
Look,
get on the inner circle?
the girls' travel club is a women's travel club is pretty much women dominated, and they sound male to me. I'm also not sure whether they're suppliers or buyers, but I would suggest that you start your own group. That is the best way to get your like-minded people thinking together. Our groups, the Switzerland group, is certainly not a closed thing or you have to be vetted. We were all at We Are Africa, and we said, why don't we just start this group and we can ask each other questions and bounce stuff off each other. And I mean, I think a lot of this also happened during COVID, where people had to, look for people close to them, and get advice or share knowledge. But yeah, contact me. I can also put them in touch with people. There are quite a few of these groups. A big one that is an amazing one to be part of is S Travel Group. I can also share the details with that after this. And that's a massive group, and you get in touch with Ron McKenzie from the Safari Guys, and he would be very willing and able to share people, to add people.
Cool. Philip said, as a company that is known by some big suppliers because of years relationship building and then starting up my own company, how do we get our foot in the door to work more closely with the suppliers to take over some of the overflow of their properties?
Sorry, is it a supplier asking that?
As a company that is known by some big suppliers because of years of relationship building. I'm not sure what his actual.
Okay.
Yeah.
The biggest thing my takeout is pick up the phone and call someone and say, this is what I am thinking and this is what I need, and I'm willing to bring X, Y, and Z from my side, or I don't have anything, but I need help. And how can we work this out? It's a very simple conversation. You do not necessarily, as I said, immediately have to provide a ROI or get an ROI. The key thing here is just to start. I think when you start collaborating, it just comes back, and yeah, in tenfold.
Yeah. Cool. So I just wondered, like, in terms of your observations, can you think of an example of a recent sort of act of generosity that you've seen in the trade that stuck with you?
Oh gosh. Now I have to put my money where my mouth is. I work with an amazing group of clients. I think what we do quite well is share knowledge from what I take from one client, sharing it with another client, even with the trade, with the trade partners that we work with. Yeah, I've now been put on the spot, and now I actually can't think of something immediately. But I mean, there's let me think.
I'm sure there are loads, so I'm sure you won't have to think for too long.
Yeah, I try to collaborate and do everything with people and not on my own, because I hate being on my own. That's probably also why I'm such a big believer of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the approach that you use and of turning a potentially a competitor into a collaborator, how do you start that conversation with them?
You just have to start it.
Right.
We all in this amazing industry together, bringing people, their bucket lists, wishes, making that true for them. And I think if we focus on that first before we see each other as competitors, it will already take the elephant out of the room. Every one of us are in this together. We all need bums in beds, and we all need guests to come to these hotels and to these lodges. We're literally all in this together. We are Africa, and we need to just put all that animosity or jealousness or competitiveness aside for a bit, and think, why are we doing this? And if you're only doing it for your own gain and for your own, profit and whatever, that's also fine. I mean, it's totally fine. But then know that you're going to be left in a silo by your own, and you won't be
Yeah.
approachable. So be approachable, be welcoming, be kind, just share. It doesn't take a lot of you to do that.
Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned that we talk about Ubuntu and the Africa opportunity, but I mean, the reality is that most of the people on this call will have a sphere of, peers or trade peers that extend outside Africa, but who kind of obviously focus on Africa. So, I mean, I think it's true to say that things like, technologies like WhatsApp and, all these collaboration kind of technologies allowing us to basically work as communities more and more is like it's worth calling that out.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
like I mean and like-minded, I think when everyone's kind of, when you're in their territory, they're in your territory, it's a, a quid pro quo.
Mm.
Sean said, remind Lindsay she helped Sean from Hidden Africa with loads of PR and and contacts in the
Thank you, Sean.
NYC. She has always helped us
That
so
was just
generously.
yesterday. That shows you it was yesterday. I've got a
Okay.
perimenopausal brain. Yeah, no, I did. That's an example. Reached out. They need to do some PR. Who can they talk to? And it all depends what they want to do and where they want to go with it. And then, yeah, you share and you connect. And yeah, it's going to help them. Doesn't have to help you always.
Yeah, for sure. Lindsay, can you
Thanks,
just
Sean.
leave your last slide up again, just so that if people can see your email address, if they need to be reminded.
Sorry. There we go.
Okay, there we go. Thanks. Great. So you've mentioned sort of a couple of communities that you're currently active on. I mean, how do these communities differ depending on how people group themselves, for example? I mean, so you have a supplier kind of space. Do you often see operators kind of joining those conversations as well, or are they exclusively kind of locked down just for suppliers? I mean,
No,
what's
it's
the
there's
general sense
there
there in terms
are
of?
there are quite a few groups. The S Travel group is an amazing group that's open for suppliers and buyers, and there you can really share, ask questions. There's constant, communication on. It does get a lot. That's the other thing. I mean, if you're on WhatsApp and your phone goes beep, 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 but take time to go through these things and learn. People share amazing ideas or suggestions on these groups. Certain groups, like our Switzerland group, for instance, is supplier only, because that's where we talk about the trade and commission benchmarks and cancellation policies, and should we do the 5-star rating with SA Tourism, or shouldn't we, or should we do this? So there's space for everyone. And then obviously there are definitely buyer groups as well. And then there's groups for everyone. So it's actually a combination. And I think the more you start asking and figuring out and, digging and just doing some research, and honestly, talk to the guy down the road from you or opposite you that you could have potentially thought that he's your competitor all along, might become your biggest, friend and asset in the future.
Yeah, 100%. Right. Well, I'm out of questions, and it doesn't seem like anyone on the attendees. It seems like they've dried up in terms of their
Okay.
questions. So you've clearly
Good.
answered everyone's questions.
Good.
But yeah, I think that the thing is to just say, like, this. I mean, certainly from a Weti perspective, the notion of ours and Ubuntu is absolutely central to our brand, and it's so encouraging and wonderful to hear this narrative kind of getting more spotlight and getting more airtime, because there is definitely a lot of fragmentation and disintermediation happening across the industry. As you know, it's not new, but there are very few, relatively speaking, when you look at the kind of the market mix at a sort of academic level, there's very few really, really big players. So if you look at a graph on market, sort of the market opportunity, you see this kind of big kind of this spike that goes up in terms of a couple of big players. And then there's this long tail of smaller players in this industry. And it is so important to have these opportunities for people to connect and collaborate, because that long tail, it can draw so much more power, I think,
Absolutely.
as a collective.
Yeah.
And as you say, you're never going to have enough budget. You're not going to ever
Yeah.
outsmart or out budget,
The bigger
a
ones.
massive and
Yeah.
booking.com or an OTA. You know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
You've got to work smart. So I think it's super valuable. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Lindsay, so much for coming on board. I hope everyone's found this interesting, and we
Me
will
too.
be posting out the recording and the slides. So, and now that they've got your email address, no doubt you'll get loads of follow-ups. So
Thanks.
yeah,
Thanks,
thank you
Sharon. Thanks
so
for having me.
much.
I appreciate it.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, everyone.